Hi everyone. I am going to respond to the first prompt regarding the concept of muckraking. So during the early 1900s, there were these investigative journalists who were trying to expose these bigger industries like the railroad industry, the oil industry, the medical industry. So they were doing this investigative work and then writing these exposés for nationally circulated magazines like McClure's. And the stories were longer than maybe what you would have typically seen in a city or state circulated newspaper. So these national magazines had the ability really to do this, and they were trying to create reform, create change in society. So the term muckraker, this was a character in Pilgrim's Progress, and Teddy Roosevelt referred to these investigative journalists as muckrakers because he felt like even though they thought that they were making progress or making any sort of change, like the muckraker who was just raking muck, but Teddy Roosevelt, thought that they really weren't making any sort of progress. To him, they were maybe stirring up more trouble, or these stories that they were writing were also negative. So he was not a fan of the muckrakers, and so this was not a positive term that he gave to them. Now, at the time, they were doing work that made change. There was Ida Tarbell's expose of Standard Oil, which did lead to reform, or David Graham Phillips' The Treason of the Senate, which also led to change. On page 337 of our book, it actually says that muckraking aroused public opinion and compelled substantial legislative reforms. So, in that respect, maybe the term muckraker is not the right term to use. Our book even talks about how they were creating so much change and so much reform that there was less and less for them to write about and expose, which the book says is possibly led to the decline, really, of this type of journalism. But also, on the other hand of that, these magazines still were publishing advertisements for these different kinds of systems or industries or products that they were also trying to expose and write about. So in that way, maybe this is a legitimate term to call them because they were trying to create change and reform, but then they were also promoting these products and contributing really to the growth of those industries in that way. So in some ways it is a legitimate term, and in other ways they did really create change at the time. So they weren't just making no progress, but there was effective reform going on. When I think of modern examples of muckraking, or, well, really modern examples of this kind of investigative journalism that was able to lead to change, I think about the Boston Globe's Spotlight team whenever they exposed sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. There's also Edward Snowden's expose or release of information regarding NSA surveillance. And then there's even maybe more recent examples using social media. I think about these different online movements like the Me Too movement, Time's Up, Black Lives Matter. It's people who are trying to expose things going on, and you can easily search for this hashtag and find more information on that topic. So I think those are some good modern examples of this investigative journalism. I wouldn't necessarily call it muckraking because I feel like it is leading to some change, such as the Me Too movement, leading to so many different arrests and people coming out about various people, various, like Harvey Weinstein, people coming out about them. So I do think that it's created some change, even though it's just this online social media movement. So the muckraking term to me, not necessarily legitimate, just because Teddy Roosevelt was trying to say that he felt like they weren't making any sort of progress, but there was progress made, even just for the state of journalism and how people were reporting information changed. So I do think that it led to some reform and some good change in society.